Well, let's bring in Ashfin Rattansi in London, host of RT UK's new politics show, Going Underground. He joins us now. Ashfin, you worked on a UK broadsheet when apartheid was at its most notorious in the 1980s and then saw the big change from Mandela being transformed basically from prisoner to president. How do you remember him being assessed by leaders around the world?
Certainly back then he was a reviled figure by people in actually mentors of the present government. Famously, there were posters from the Conservative Party here saying that Nelson Mandela should be hanged. And of course Nelson Mandela, we have to all agree, was a proponent of violence against those other anti-apartheid elements in South Africa who thought, hey, there's a small minority at the top, there's a large majority at the bottom, we can use industrial action. Mandela believed that killing men, women and children in the streets of South Africa was a tool that was valid. And of course here in Britain, the IRA were doing similar things, so they became conflated. These were the movements of their times, along with the PLO, it should be added. Of course, things rapidly changed. By the time I met him in the late 1990s, his views had changed quite a lot.
I mean, there's no denying, is there, that the name Nelson Mandela symbolises compassionate, inclusive leadership. But what are the lessons for today's world leaders, do you think?
Well, when I met him, he was selling arms to Persian Gulf dictatorships. And it's noticeable that what he did do is impoverish South Africa. And he made a secret agreement for his release as part of this reconciliation agreement to basically sell South Africa off $850 million from the IMF. So things are certainly worse for the black majority in South Africa since his release. And that's not often talked about. But when you talk about the future, perhaps there is a child in Soweto today, inspired by Mandela, but also inspired in a way that is slightly different. To really be as anti-imperialist as Mandela said he was, supporting the Cuban Revolution. His first trip was, of course, to see Fidel Castro, but actually believing in it and actually using those same beliefs to create action, political action, in power. Whereas the Mandela I saw, his defense minister at the time, mired in corruption, and basically all his cohorts, many of whom the South African majority believe are corrupt. Maybe there is a child in Soweto who will carry out the beliefs that Mandela so articulately put to the people at the Rivonia trial back in the 1960s.
OK, thank you, Ashfin. That's RT's Ashfin Rattansi in London.